Have you ever taken your pulse? You know where to find your pulse? Check if you're still alive every now and then. We have an EKG up there. We're going to do a ministry flows from the heart. And you know, I saw some real EKGs, and I was like, I've looked at those enough when I was 10 days out in Pittsburgh. I'm not going there. We're really going to the heart. As we check our pulse, we check our physical heartbeat, but today and throughout the sermon series, we are checking our spiritual heartbeat, our spiritual health, where we are spiritually. And today we consider how Paul addresses this subject of spiritual health. There is a card in your bulletin that I invite you to take out. It is a heart card. It has a heart on it, but it is a way to maybe assess our hearts before God or to reflect on some things. And you may be ready to fill that out now or not. But we are taking the offering following, and I would like, as you fill these out, to put those in the offering plate when you at the conclusion of our time together today. But you are invited on that card to write down what you love about or what you love most about your church. There's not a lot of room. You can pick and choose or put, the first thing that comes to your mind. It could be a small group ministry, Bible study, worship, fellowship time, Sunday school class. It could be the welcoming spirit of your church. It could be a particular ministry or program that our church offers. But I invite you to do that. If you would like to put your name on there, you may. There is a check. We have our bulletin boards all ready to display these coming weeks. There will be different colored cards that we will do with a different emphasis. And if we can display your card, just put a check mark on there and we'll put it on those bulletin boards at the base of the steps. Thank you. Our passage today, as we look at this, Paul looks at our heart. And let me begin by reading verse 17, and we will begin with that. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides with everything for our enjoyment. I was thinking about the meaning of rich. That can mean a lot of different things. I sure like a rich chocolate cake. And you give me a robust coffee to go with it, I'm really set to go. But we know that's not what Paul's talking about here for sure. And even rich defined in our possessions, our wealth, or the things that income or things like that, it is a relevant term. One commentary writer said that never has the disparity in the distribution of wealth in the world been so evident as in modern times. And he questions whether Western Christians are impacting the rest of the world in the way that we are called to do, in the way that Paul even calls us to do. But Paul's readers, there was even a disparity there, an inequality, an economic disparity. There were within that congregation, there were slaves, people who had nothing. There were poor widows who basically had nothing because when the husband died, there was nothing left. There were well-to-do women in that congregation. There were those who owned homes. There were those categorized as rich. But to each and every one of them, Paul left an important lesson, instruction, to be more concerned about your spiritual state of richness, of wealth, of well-being, and to respond appropriately and have the proper attitude towards that which is material. I want to talk about a little bit about how in our modern world our income, our possessions are distributed. We have what's called the Pew Report, one of those studies that have taken a picture of that we're going to see on the screen at this time. And I want to talk about that a little bit. It displays, you can't read underneath, but you can tell by the colored columns that the first column is those that are poor, second column low income, third column is middle income, then upper middle, and then high income. Middle, upper, high, kind of the same. And they're looking at There's two numbers comparing 2001 and 2011. But leave that up for a while there, Joe. We're going to talk about that and come back to that. As we look at that, the truth is that in the United States, we are blessed with material things. But there's been kind of a question about the growing inequality even in the United States. You know, within this congregation, we probably are all over the board as far as where our income is or where our possessions are and so forth. And that is a good picture of where we are in the United States. And that causes me to tread lightly as I speak today. There was a study by Fortune magazine that came out in 2015. And it looked at the income inequality or disparity throughout the United States, but also looked at what they considered to be wealth, not just income, but the possessions, the land, property, investments, things like that, and looked at the disparity or the inequality of that as well. Interesting, that report came up with this fact, this name. The report dubbed the United States the unequal states of America. The unequal states of America because of the size of the gap, that we were all over the chart. Now, let's get back to our visual aid today. As you've looked at that and as I've talked, I know you've categorized yourself where you are. But let me tell you something. This is going to blow away everything you've just figured out in your head. This is a global population income. Those that are marked by poor, the clear left-hand column, are those making less than $2 a day in our global economy. Those that are in the middle income bracket, the middle is in the middle. It's the third one up there. Those are those making between $10 to $20 a day. Global income, globally looking at, it is $10 to $20 a day. That blows away where we put ourselves in those columns, doesn't it? It gives us a new picture of our world economy and where we are. And I say that to make this point today. Whether we're high, low, poor income, no matter where we are, Paul has a word for us today from this passage. He has a word for each and every one of us. Thank you, Joe. Paul says that if you do have wealth, sometimes it is difficult to focus on or entrust on Jesus. And we've probably all discovered most of us have more than a lot of people in the world today. But to that, Paul gives these words in verse 18. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. Paul's remedy, don't put hope in your finances, don't put hope in those bank accounts, don't put hope in your income, put hope in God. God should always come first. God is the one that we trust. God is the one that we acknowledge that whatever we do have, it has come from His hand. Paul says, don't look at the gift, look at the giver of the gift. And I like what this commentator said, commentary writer. He said, to acknowledge the giver, use our gifts in ways that acknowledge the giver. Use what we have in ways that acknowledge the giver. Ways that praise God, ways that point to God, ways that will give God the glory, and that will do ministry for Jesus and the church. Today, as we reflect on things that we love about our church and we look at the ministries of our church, you know, this is not a new exercise for us. We've done this some, maybe more at church council, maybe as a congregation as well. But we've talked about things that we love from our church, and some things popped up in my mind, and I hope I'm not taking your answers away or giving you ideas. If you didn't write anything down, you might want to jot it down now. But I'm going to lift a couple of those things up. There are certain things that come to the top of the list, and there are certain things that I see behind the scenes that I will lift too. One of the things at the top of the list is our music ministry. You love our music ministry. You guys are always mentioned, and you do so much hard work. And I tell you, I about got myself in big trouble this week because I scheduled Thursday's meeting on Thursday, and that's a sacred night for these folks to practice. And I pled not guilty because I was so grateful that we had 10 days to get this meeting in at that point. That's all I was looking at. We have 10 days because we have to call the meeting in 10 days, give notice. We have 10 days because that's the deadline that the stained glass window company gave us. We have 10 days. Praise the Lord, I was saying. And then I found out it was choir night. But we worked together on those things because we're a congregation, because we're the family of God, and we do respect one another, and it was not out of disrespect that happened. But you know what I like? That there are people so committed to the music ministry that they were willing to say, "Oh, I am so committed to this." Why did that happen? You know, we need to be committed to the ministries that we commit to. We need to say, make those times sacred in our lives, whether it's music ministry, whatever that we do. And that's perhaps lifting up another part of who we are as a congregation, committed. The same thing happened Tuesday night. We scheduled, of course, it's Halloween trick-or-treat, which, some of you are yay, nay about that. But we have this wonderful outreach event that we do outside, and I love that event. That event's becoming one of my favorite things because on the darkest night, we are out there shedding the light on things in more than one way, because Gary brings a fire truck and we have light, but we have music, Christian music, that's going out in the streets, and it doesn't matter what or who, they're getting the word of who Jesus Christ is through that music. And yes, you're giving the candy out alongside, participating in. But we're doing the work of the Lord. We're doing outreach. And we have finance meeting that night too. So we, kind of mix things up on Tuesday night too. But we do what we have to do sometimes. One of the other things that comes up is Ken Bodle's Bible study and Sunday school class. People love that class. And I look at him as, when people look back in history, some things that you've done that where you have grown spiritually, it was with disciple Bible study. And I think, that was a thing that was a time for that and is probably really good still. But Ken has kind of continued that. And you all are growing under his tutelage, his teaching. And I give thanks for that. And I give thanks that Ken is one of those in-season, out-of-season kind of people that when I had a major emergency in my family on a Tuesday night, found out Wednesday. I never gave a thought. Ken said, I will preach Saturday and Sunday. And he was here for you. He was here for us. He was here for me and my family. There are many who have stepped up to the plate in this past month and a half. And I give you thanks, each and every one of you. The block party. Christian Education Sunday. It was on the calendar, never thought a thing about it, and it still happened. Our Halloween outreach wouldn't still be happening if people wouldn't say, hey, we need that candy. I wasn't here to say that, but somebody else did and got that planned. I give you each thanks for the service that you do for the Lord. The trustees work so hard. And we don't see that a lot of times. It's kind of behind the scenes, but they work so hard. This building requires a lot of care. And their list is a mile long, and they're having to prioritize and to do. United Methodist men come right alongside of them and help them do some of those projects. Thanks be to God. And the last thing I will lift up is the mission of this church. We have the hub visible and before us. Thursday morning Bible study collection is right at the back, and you're always ready to participate in those things. And I believe our outreach outside is a part of that, coming on Tuesday. And another group that maybe is kind of behind the scenes with that is United Methodist Women, because they exist for mission. And they do things for mission that we never see. They learn about projects around the world that we never see. We support Sierra Leone, and we continue to support Sierra Leone. You are a missional church. Thank you. And that's what this passage is about. It's that we are bigger than ourselves, and the things that we do to touch the lives of others. And in the process of that, we ourselves are touched and grow spiritually as well. It keeps our heart beating to be able to do CPR on somebody else, to pour our lives into other ministries. Let me read verse 19. Paul continues, "In this way they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life." I came across that phrase before, to take hold of the life that is truly life. I love that phrase, but I think I took it out of context when I look at the whole of this passage. To take hold of the life that is truly life is to be like Jesus and pour our lives out for others. That's taking hold of the life that is truly life. It is recognizing that it's not what we see, it's about what we don't see more than anything. The spiritual life behind everything. And it's the coming age. It's not this age, but the coming age. And you might look at that as, yes, eternal life, but you could look at that as our future as well. I want to read to you in the devotional book that accompanies this, just a part of a devotion in closing here. And that devotional book, if you still want to sign up and purchase it, you may. And I thank Mary for doing the Bible study Thursday that goes along with this. But one of the devotions, the one like day 2 or something in the book, talks about building nests. Building nests. Listen to this reading. The notion of building nests is often used as a metaphor to describe people successfully providing for their own comforts. If someone arrives at a career position of some ease and security, friends say, "You've built yourself quite a nest for yourself here." The word nest often connotes shelter, coziness, home-like, comfortable. In actual fact, the nests which birds build are not for the birds who build them, but for their young, for the next generation, for the future of the species. The hours of carrying straw, sticks, and mud, the days of defensive watchfulness, and the weeks of endless feeding are all for the benefit of the new ones, the young, the future. Now consider nests we build in our church. The buildings, programs, ministries, job descriptions, and services we build, are they for our own comfort and coziness, or are they to further the faith and provide for future generations? Does our giving serve us and our needs, or serve God by serving the mission of the church to reach new people? Vibrant, fruitful congregations focus as much energy, prayer, and planning on those who are outside the congregation as they do on those who are already active in the congregation. Let us be that kind of church, a nest-building church where everybody is welcome, everybody feels comfortable, everybody will be ministered to in some way, and we will invite. I never saw a bird's nest that ran out of room. I don't know. Let us invite all to be a part of what we do, because what we do here is life-changing and life-impacting.